All right. We have an update, it looks like. YouTube class action. Plaintiff can't identify piracy without access to content ID. Covered this previously. Maria Schneider, you know, wanting access to YouTube user data, which, she fucking shouldn't get, in my opinion. Um, Maria Schneider's class action lawsuit against YouTube, and it doesn't say. I mean, I thought class actions were supposed to involve like multiple people. It only involved like her and one, uh, you know, pirate chasing outfit or whatever who apparently abandoned it. Don't know. Um, um, Lawsuit against YouTube has taken another unusual turn. The complaint alleges massive infringement, but thus far identifies no infringing videos. Well, imagine that. YouTube wants to know exactly what it's dealing with, but Schneider says that since she has no access to content ID, a big part of why the complaint was originally filed, she can't easily provide that information. When YouTube or anybody or anything, does something kind of like that, like a catch-22, it's like, well, tell us what precisely you want. Well, I don't know precisely what I want. Well, then we can't give it to you. When they play that kind of game, it's like most of the time that's really frustrating because usually it's like, I don't know, it's like the government fucking with you or some shit, and it's like, yeah, you anyway, it's usually the bad guys fucking with, the good guys or at least the neutrals parties or whatever, when you encounter something like that. But in this case, it's actually like, it's like she is the problem, at least, from my standpoint. And so I kind of like that they're fucking with her like this. This is fun. In 2020, Grammy Award-winning musician Maria Schneider filed a class action lawsuit against YouTube claiming massive infringement on the platform and serious deficiencies in copyright enforcement measures. Schneider's grievances are numerous, including that YouTube restricts access to its takedown tools, profits from infringement, and fails to terminate repeat infringers. I feel like some of this may be copy pasted from the previous article. Furthermore, since 98% of YouTube copyright issues are reportedly resolved with content ID, yeah, this is definitely copy pasted. Come on, torrent freak, stop being so fucking lazy. Schneider says that YouTube has entirely insulated huge numbers of users from it. Yeah, that whole paragraph was definitely like just copy paste. The case thus far is notable for its oddities, including that co-plaintiff Pirate Monitor, yeah, that's the one, claimed that many of its copyrighted works appeared on YouTube, and Breach Camera later said to have uploaded those works itself before sending corresponding takedown notices. Well, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of copyright trolls, essentially. Oh, such bullshit. And another thing that I forgot to mention last time about, or in any previous videos, I guess, about copyright type stuff, is I forgot to mention that another problem with intellectual property laws is that they're specifically written, seemingly, in a way that means you can lose the copy protection of whatever your thing is, if you don't aggressively try to enforce your rights. Which, on the one hand, it kind of makes sense to do it that way, but on the other hand, the outcome is, for instance, what's the guy's name? David Weber? Is that the guy's name, I think, who wrote the Honor Harrington novels? Some people were making a mod for, I can't remember which game, but there was some game or other, and they were making an Honorverse mod for it. And because of the way that copyright or trademark or whatever law is written, it basically made him feel like, okay, made his lawyers feel like, and they advised him, and he went with their advice, that, okay, you've got to stop these people from doing what they're doing. Now, like, nobody get, like, I mean, occasionally you see that from companies like MGM or whoever it was, who owned, was it, NBC Universal? Is that it? Who owned Battlestar Galactica? Like, somebody was making mods for games, and like all of them, every single fucking mod, I think, that was on like ModDB or whatever for Battlestar Galactica, every single one of them was issued a takedown notice by NBC Universal because they were trying to launch their own game, and they didn't want anybody playing a Battlestar Galactica themed thing in some other game that, so it was a total dick move, but they did that, and then they had their game for a while, and I suspect that, interest in it dried up, if there ever was very much in the first place. And I guess they stopped bitching because some of those mods at least have returned. But like, there's tons of Star Wars mods for games and Star Trek mods for games, and Lucasfilm or CBS or whoever, they don't care. They don't bitch about that, and thank God, And usually most other sci-fi franchises that get, mods made of their shit or whatever, they also don't usually complain. And that's good, because doing so would just piss off your fans. Anyway, but David Weber, I think that's the guy's name. David Weber, something like, anyway. But anyway, the Honor Harrington dude, he fucking took his lawyer's advice and went after these people that were making a mod and shut them down. Because he felt, and probably rightfully so, because of the way the law is written, that if he didn't aggressively protect his trademarks and shit, then he would lose them, or at least he would potentially lose them. And I guess he didn't feel as comfortable as a big old company or whatever at letting people do shit. But I don't understand. I mean, to me, the solution to that, if you're really worried, is make them buy a license. It's like, offer them a non-exclusive license to do what they're doing, and make them pay a fee of like $100 or something. If you don't want to fuck them over, offer it relatively cheap, and then just be like, yeah, you pay this easy to pay bill, and there you go, you have a license, and you can, and now, you're an officially licensed thing, and I don't have to worry that you're going to cost me my intellectual property, and I don't have to try to shut you down and or anything. It's like, everything's fine. But instead, like I said, he went after them and shut them down and pissed a lot of people off. And then, supposedly to, kind of mollify people that were upset about that, he said, well, we're going to make our own game, so you can play that when it's ready. And as far as I know, it never, ever was done. Like, they never made that game. They made some efforts towards it to begin with, and then I think they just kind of stopped. So, oh well. But anyway, my point was that that's a terrible way for the laws to be written. They shouldn't be written in that way. They should be written in a way that's a little bit more relaxed, so that it's not as fucking easy for you to lose your protections on your intellectual property, so that you don't have, like, the law essentially is requiring you to go out there and be a complete dickbag to your own fans, if they're doing something that, might potentially lose you your copy protections or whatever. Earlier this month, the matter took another unusual turn when Schneider asked the court to order YouTube to hand over massive information. I believe we covered this in the last video about this. Allow her to identify every user the takedown notice filed against them since 2015. Yeah, holy shit. To determine whether YouTube's repeat infringement policies come up to scratch. And it's not for her to fucking determine, as far as I'm concerned, so fuck her. YouTube. Schneider needs to clarify her claims. While Schneider alleges massive infringement on YouTube. The Google-owned platform is now complaining that Schneider's claims are unspecific. Good. YouTube insists that Schneider should identify the copyrighted works she is complaining about and where infringements have taken place on YouTube so that it has a fair opportunity to look into every single claim. However, YouTube says that since Schneider is refusing to agree to a deadline or even acknowledge the dispute, it is now seeking relief from the court. Good. Schneider's complaint alleges she owns 3 copyrighted works that were infringed on YouTube. It does not identify a single YouTube video that she claims is infringing. Instead, Schneider contends that her potential copyright claims against YouTube are boundless. She insists that she is allowed to put at issue dozens of unpleaded works and allegedly infringing videos, and that she can do so whenever she wants, YouTube informs court. Plaintiff's approach is misguided. Defendants need to know sufficiently before the end of discovery the full universe of copyrighted works and alleged infringements at issue. Without that information, defendants will be unable to take discovery to support their defenses, most of which are necessarily work or video specific. Well, that's some good points there, I should think. As background, YouTube says that in interrogatory response, Schneider has thus far purported to add 75 more works to the case, but hasn't amended her complaint. The musician also agreed to identify all currently known infringements. These reportedly amounted to 51 videos, but they only involved 24 works, a moving target, according to YouTube. For most of the works that Schneider has not pleaded but contends are at issue, no infringement has been identified, the video platform adds. With that, YouTube demands that Schneider amends her complaint to identify the copyrighted works and all instances of infringement of those works on YouTube. Schneider, it appears, does not want to play ball. Oh no, she wants, from the sound of it, she wants everything, the way she wants it, and and doesn't give a shit whether she has any right to it or not. Schneider, no obligation to detail all infringed works. In a response to YouTube's motion, Schneider states that YouTube is wrong to say that the allegedly infringed works must be identified. Why? Why would they be wrong to say that you need to identify what you're fucking complaining about? That seems pretty straightforward. A plaintiff in a copyright infringement action has no obligation to include in the complaint a complete listing of all the works at issue. Her response to the motion reads, noting that since 75 such works were supplied to YouTube back in March, there can be no debate that defendants are on notice about what works are involved in the dispute. But Schneider goes further still, arguing that case law shows that plaintiffs are not required to specify each and every instance of infringement, including the who, what, where, when, and why. Oh, the Nick News W5, huh? Describing YouTube's deadline to detail instances of infringement as invented and lacking in legal support, Schneider says that an issue at the very core of her complaint, YouTube's refusal to grant her access to Content ID, in other words, refusal to grant her unfettered access to any and all YouTube user data that she wants, basically. That's what she wants. She wants to just give me everything so I can poke around, renders any deadline both unfair and impractical. To even attempt to identify every infringement, plaintiff would have to constantly search for infringing videos using manual keyword searches that hit upon the specific words chosen by the uploading infringer, such an endeavor would be futile and unduly burdensome, her response reads. Well, I mean, she's claiming that they're making something unduly burdensome on her, and she's very clearly trying to make unduly burdensome, requirements of them. I mean, it's how about we just stop with this fucking bullshit? I mean, as far as I know, YouTube, does catch when people are using copyrighted shit and says, "Hey, you're using copyrighted shit. Stop that." We're taking down your video because you had music in it or whatever. As far as I know, YouTube does that. Like, don't they usually do that? You often get hit with a claim or a strike or something whenever you have something in your video that shouldn't be there. It's like if they're doing that, which they obviously are doing, then why are you bitching? If you've found a specific instance of somebody using your shit without having paid for it or whatever, then just report it to YouTube and say, "Hey, take this down." And presumably they would. You don't need to take them to fucking court over it. You don't need to do any of this shit. Just tell them, "Hey, that this is my copyrighted work and it's being infringed upon. Please remove the video." And undoubtedly they would side with you and be like, "Oh, we agree that they're doing that and the video is now gone." I mean, the whole thing seems really overblown. But it would be a dangerous precedent, by the way, for the court to allow this bitch to get access to YouTube user data. That's in nobody's fucking interest. To be like, "Oh yeah, if you think that you've found some infringements of your stuff on YouTube, then you can just demand that YouTube turn over basically, an ungodly amount of information to you about its users and everything." And it's like, fuck that. Absent access to Content ID, defendant's digital fingerprinting tool, which automatically scans for infringing videos prior to upload, plaintiff cannot meaningfully search for or identify the infringing videos, but defendants easily can. Defendant's position that plaintiff must identify the URL of all infringing videos is thus the height of irony. The impossibility of manually locating all instances of infringement of her works without access to Content ID motivated this lawsuit. What? It's like, give me your toys to play with. Which Schneider does not directly demand. Oh, really? While Schneider does not directly demand access to Content ID, sure sounds like it so far that's what she wants, to comply with YouTube's deadline, her motion strongly suggests that the task could easily be achieved by YouTube since it has access to Content ID. To force her to identify all the infringing videos manually prior to the close of discovery would be patently unfair, she argues, adding that the court should deny YouTube's motion in its entirety. YouTube's motion to set a case schedule and Schneider's response can be found here and here PDF. I don't know. I think the whole thing sounds like complete bullshit to me. Like I said, it definitely sounds like she's interested in gaining access to more than what she has any right to, and like I said, it would be an absolute dangerous precedent to set to allow that. So let's hope that she doesn't get her way. Like I said, I'm sure that YouTube cares more about not wanting to have an enormous amount of burden on them to try to come up with all the shit that she's requesting. They don't want to fuck with that, and they're not really concerned about people's privacy. But we YouTube users should be. I mean, even though, like I said, I wouldn't be a part of this myself because YouTube's never informed me that, oh, we've detected that you use somebody's music or whatever. I don't use any music, If I did use music, it would be music that either it's free to use or else I would fucking buy a license for the shit. Although I guess we'll find out, because I'm not sure whether it's going to go up before or after this video, but I am going to try to upload a game playthrough video of the first mission of Star Trek 25th Anniversary, so that'll have some Star Trek music in it, I guess. And we'll see whether or not they try to complain. I mean, they shouldn't, because there's tons of fucking playthroughs of all kinds of games on YouTube. So it'd be fucking insane if they were like, oh, well, you can't upload this because it's got Star Trek theme music in it or some shit. And it's like, so? I mean, claim it or something. I mean, there's no ads on it as far as I know. It's like, I'm not, my channel's brand new, it's not monetized, but it's like, if you want to put ads on it at some point in the future, or hell, you want to put ads on it now, it's like, I don't care. Put them on there if that's what you fucking want, and send the money to fucking CBS. I don't give a shit. I advise everybody watching my videos to use ad blockers, so if they do that, it's not going to matter. Anyway. All right. So that's a bit of an update, but we still don't know for sure what in the fuck is actually gonna happen. Nothing is decided yet. But presumably, Torrent Freak will stay on top of this, and we must hope for a good outcome. All right. Until the next one.